Welcome to the Mindset Game podcast. I'm Vered Kogan, and I'm absolutely thrilled to have a special guest with us today, Michael Balchan. Michael is the head coach and chief of staff of Heroic, a public benefit corporation, where he's working to help create a world in which 51% of the population is flourishing by the year 2051. Michael is a Harvard-trained behavioral economist and psychologist who spent almost a decade in finance before becoming a sought-after performance coach to executives and leadership teams. Together with his longtime mentor, Brian Johnson, Michael created a scientifically backed 300-day coach certification program that has trained over 11,000 individuals in over 115 countries, and in partnership with the world's best digital product agency, the new Heroic social training platform, a proven behavioral design technology to empower individuals to move from theory to practice to mastery and express the highest, best version of themselves. Michael, it is absolutely a pleasure to have you here with us because our listeners are really curious, as am I, as to how do we really develop and stick to these new habits, things that are important to us for our health, our relationships, our business, our careers, and our life. So really excited to have you. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Vered. I'm fired up to be here. I love you have such great energy, such brightness. I love this setting. I'm really looking forward to diving in today.
Thank you. So how about we dive right into how in the world did you get into this really cool stuff that you're doing?
Yeah, I started out as a seeker. So, you mentioned in the bio, graduated, went into finance, wanted to excel at my career in finance, right? It was an exciting opportunity for me, loved lots of parts of the job and wanted to be really, really good at that, but also be well-rounded and be a good human outside of the office. So can I take care of my body? Can I be happy in life? Can I be a great partner to my then girlfriend, now wife? And just really, really curious about how does the world work? I feel like I've learned what schools taught me, but there was so much more that I was just curious about. And so I went on this personal journey into personal development to, again, really perform well at work, but then perform well outside of work as well. And did, the speed reading courses and taught speed reading courses and did the online education, took hundreds and hundreds of courses across all the platforms, Udemy, edX, like Coursera, you name it. And I have probably taken a course on it, including like astronomy or, product spreadsheet wizardry or whatever, just random stuff, like truly all over the board. And I felt like it was going to take me a long, 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 long time to learn all the things I wanted to learn, like a lifetime. And then I found a guy, Brian Johnson. Someone sent me one of his philosopher's notes. It was on The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. And what Brian does with the philosopher's notes, he spent more than 2 decades just reading, writing, and teaching. He would take a book, read through it like an archaeological dig. Let me find those big ideas, those life-changing things that just like jump off the page at you. Pull those out, distill them, connect them to other great books. He's read thousands of books, and put them into a 6-page PDF and a 20-minute MP3. The tagline was more wisdom and less time. So I read this philosopher's note on Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now, and I was like, this is amazing. One, I feel like I could still read this book, but I got the vast majority of the ideas that will help me from it. And I have read a ton of books that I've also read the philosophers on, like, oh, let me learn more. Let me go deeper on there. But I was able to accelerate my own progress, accelerate my own growth as a result of just studying this wisdom that Brian had distilled. And so over the course of almost a decade, really just as a student, as a seeker, as a practitioner, so learning these things that Brian talked about and genuinely trying to implement them in my life, meditating and journaling and consistent exercise and all the practices that we know to be good for us, like a daily gratitude practice and all these different sorts of things. And I struggled with many of them and had to find different ways to approach the same habit. Journaling was one that actually took a long time for me to get right. It was because of the 5-minute journal, this really accessible 3 minute in the morning, 2 minute in the evening process. Who am I? My virtues. That came from Brian, the 5-minute journal, but struggled with some of these things, but made this commitment to let me try to integrate all this wisdom in my life and to show up more and more consistently in the language I have now, being the best version of myself. And did that, was on that journey for a long time. And folks started asking questions. Hey, I noticed you're doing this thing, or you wrote about this thing, or I would love to get your opinion on this, or this. And there came a point where I realized that there was a different opportunity available for me. There's other ways that I could contribute to the world. And so left finance, went into coaching, had a one-on-one practice, small group practice, leadership teams, basically taking all the things that I had studied for so long and implemented in my own life and in my own teams as a trader, and helping other people to do them as well. Did that for a couple of years, then was actually blessed to meet Brian, to connect with Brian, and to help create the coach program together, which you mentioned. I think it's maybe 12,000 now that have gone through the program. It's life-changing, scientifically validated program. But I'm still a student every single day. Every single day is new. I literally write down from one of my journal practices the number of days that I've been alive. Today is 13,101. It's my 13,101st day on this planet. It is my almost 4-year-old daughter's, I think, 1,410th day or something like that. And my youngest daughter, like her 479th day. So I count time by the days, because I believe that every day is new, every day is fresh. I'm still a student every day. I'm still learning every day. I'm still struggling with this challenge of, how do I express the best version of myself? How do I take all the things that I know to be true and actually live them moment to moment to moment to moment to moment to moment? And it's hard. We will never, ever, 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 ever get there. We will always feel challenged when we are more tired, when we haven't eaten well, when we haven't moved our bodies. We're even more challenged when we're around our family members who have interesting internal webs into our psyches. We have to draw upon some of our reserves of how to show up to life. So I'm still every single day trying to express my best more and more consistently now than it used to be, but never perfectly. And again, just always that student, always open to life, open to new perspectives, but committed to giving it my best shot.
Thank you for sharing that. It's just so cool to learn a little bit about kind of your progression and this realization that ultimately it is a process, it is a journey. We never really arrive, because when we get to a certain level of performance or achievement or optimization, right, in our body and in our relationships and so on, there's always more. Right? It's actually the way that we're wired, right? The unconscious mind, one of the prime directives is to be wired for more, to seek more. So in some way, we're all seekers. And I'm a soul sister in that domain as well, right? I'm a learner and a practitioner and a lifetime student. And so I would really love to dive a little bit deeper now into this concept of habits, right? Like you said, there are ways to make it easier for us, scientifically proven ways to work with our brain, with our body rather than against the current, to lean into things that are foreign to the body and make it stick. So what are some of those key nuggets, if we were to distill them into a podcast conversation, that are absolutely critical for every listener to understand?
Mm-hmm. There are many, 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 and people do multi-week, multi-month, multi-year courses, right? Just on habits. And before we get into habits, actually, I want to circle one of the things you mentioned about this desire for more, this drive for more, and I'll bring it back to habits. But we want to be able to hold multiple truths at the same time. So combining this, I'm never, ever there, I'm always going to want to be more, with I'm perfectly okay the way that I am. And I'm so grateful for life as it is. And I know I certainly had this tendency in my life previously of like not enoughness, oh, well, if I'm never there, then I'm always falling short. And it's coming from this place of lack, right? This scarcity, this needing to prove something, instead of I'm perfectly whole, complete, exactly as I am in this moment. And I'm excited to see what I might become in this next moment. I'm excited to see how I can grow going forward. And this is, it's echoed all over the place in literature. Carol Dweck, mindset, growth mindset, vis-a-vis a fixed mindset. So important to combine that never going to be there with this already here. I'm already here. There is no there anyway. The best version of ourselves is an asymptote. We will never ever get there until we're no longer playing this game, until we have moved on from this life. And then that's when you've reached your there. And we actually start our program with an exercise. We have people fast forward to the end of their life. And you're sitting there on your deathbed, moments before you're passing away. And in the door walks the version of you that you could have become. They're radiantly alive. They're full of energy. They're full of vitality. And you can't do anything about it because you are at the end of your life. And to feel that pain and to allow that pain of unactualized potential to drive motion and action in this moment. So I share that in the context of habits because one of the things that I think most people tend to get wrong in habits is you make a mistake, right? I'm 10 days in, I'm crushing it. I missed day 11. I'm done. I've missed it. My streak is gone. I'm missing day 12. And then pretty soon it's just wait. Instead of perfect, that's data. I had a great 10 days in a row of trying this new habit and I fell short, and I'm more interested in the next rep than I am in anything that just happened. One of my favorite pieces of advice for nutrition, anyone who's working on installing an optimal nutrition protocol. First off, we all have a diet. We are all dieting in the sense of a diet is just what you eat, right? It's not this bad word. So we all have a diet, but whether or not we're eating in alignment with that diet is only as good as the next meal that we're eating. Will you follow your nutritional philosophy on this next meal, on this next snack? Take a meal that doesn't, perfect. It could either derail you or, all right, let me learn from it. Let me learn what happened and approach this next meal with renewed intensity. We want to apply that same approach to any habit that we have. It's always about the next rep, the next rep, the next rep, the next action, the next behavior that we can take. So with that philosophical frame, knowing we want to leverage the power of the mind, our mind is insanely powerful, insanely powerful. And if you are not getting your habits dialed in the way that you want to, I would offer that the problem is not you. The problem is your environment. The problem is how you are setting your mind up to perceive different things and then take action accordingly. All habit experts come back to this habit loop, which is essentially cue, behavior, reward. Something in your environment is a prompt, is a cue. It's attracting your mind to say, hey, here's a thing that requires a response from you. If we want to go for a run in the morning, we could lay out our running clothes and our shoes right at the foot of the bed. So we put our feet on the bed. Oh, there's my running stuff. That is a cue. That is a prompt for me to go on this run. Or I'm putting my meditation cushion in the middle of the floor. I'm putting a sticky note on top of my computer that says, start this number one first thing. These things in our environment, I put floss on the counter, right? Oh, that is a cue. That is a reminder. That is a prompt for me to do the behavior. So we've got something that cues us. We then have the actual behavior itself, right? I can trip over the running shoes and decide, no, I'm not doing that. Or I can actually do it, right? I can move the sticky note aside or put the floss in the trash. I don't have to do the behavior, but that cue prompts behavior. And then once that behavior is done, comes the reward. And BJ Fogg is one of the world's leading behavioral design professors, experts out of Stanford. Most of the products that we use that are addicting technology products, they studied under BJ. So he's brilliant. He's got a fantastic book. But he thinks that his contribution, one of his most powerful contributions, will be in celebration. So celebration will at one point be more powerful than gratitude or more recognized than gratitude. And we want to use celebration to reward ourselves when we do the things that we said we wanted to do. And I always encourage folks, like, think of your sport or whatever you're really into that has some sort of championship, right? Maybe it's like the World Cup soccer, maybe it's the Olympic gold medal, or maybe it's, the Dancing with the Stars, you won there, the things, whatever it is. Think of winning that thing, performing the action in the moment that helps you, kick the free kick, penalty kick that helps your team win the World Cup. How would you celebrate? What would you do in your body? This like full, just yes. We want to try to create at least some of that bit of celebration the moment we do these things that we said we wanted to do. Because what that does is floods our brain with feel-good chemicals, dopamine, serotonin, etc. And then our brain goes, oh, I like that. I want more of that. What did I do? Oh yeah, when I picked up that flosser and flossed my tooth, I felt really good. Like, that was awesome. Let me repeat that. Let me repeat that. And our mind will start looking for opportunities to get that same feel good. So every time we do the thing that we said we wanted to do, we want to celebrate it immediately and intensely, BJ tells us. It's easy to fall on the opposite side of that spectrum where like we're trying to use punishment, right? Negative reinforcement. Don't do that thing. Don't do that thing. Don't do that thing. But what happens, one, no one actually likes getting that kind of feedback. If you have a pet, or if you have a child, or if you have a colleague or a partner or a spouse, and you have tried using negative reinforcement versus positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement is much, much, much less effective. One of my favorite behavior design books is actually it's called Don't Shoot the Dog. But the whole thing is about use positive reinforcement. Like, we want to feel good, negative reinforcement. And yet so many of us, when we fall short, it's that negative self-talk. Oh, you stink at this. You're never going to get it right. And it's this negative reinforcement. We don't enjoy it. It's not effective. It doesn't help us feel good. And it's also what we tell our mind to focus on, our mind is going to focus on. If we are reinforcing with negative things, our mind is going to look for negative things. If we are reinforcing with positive things, opportunities in our past where we have done that thing, our mind is going to look for more of those and try to create more of those. It's the same thing that happens when you buy a new car and all of a sudden you see that car everywhere. Or you buy a new pair of shoes and all of a sudden you see that pair of shoes everywhere. The reticular activating system, RAS, a little part of your brain, is basically, look, there's so much information, like millions and millions and millions of bits of information are coming in at us every single second. We would literally go crazy if we tried to focus on all of it and process all of it. So part of our brain is deciding, this is important, let that into the consciousness. All that stuff, not important. Don't let that into the consciousness. And it can go wrong, right? It can let things in that actually aren't important or be oversensitive to certain stimuli. If we've had experiences in our past that created some sort of rewiring or trauma or those sorts of things. But that reticular activation system is going to sift through all these millions of bits of information, say, this is what's most important to us. So when we are using positive reinforcement, it's looking for those opportunities to get more positive reinforcement. If we are looking for reasons why we are not good enough or falling short or making mistakes, whatever, it's going to do a great job of finding them, because that's the guidelines that we have said, hey, go find this. So we want to use our environment to support us in developing healthy habits. We also want to use our willpower wisely to install habits that run on autopilot. Lots to unpack there. Short story is the jury's actually out on whether or not willpower is finite or infinite. Navy SEALs would tell you have infinite willpower. Willpower exemplars play offense with their willpower. They don't play defense. So if I go to the store and I buy a dozen donuts and I have my mom mail me like a couple bags of cookies, and I just leave those on the front counter and walk past them every day for a week, expecting like my willpower, my firm discipline to keep me from eating those cookies, that's not going to be fun. And I'm probably not going to be successful. If, on the other hand, I don't buy the donuts and I keep the cookies out of the house, whatever, I'm using my willpower to make a choice now to play offense so I don't have to make the choice over and over and over and over. Make the choice once, you free yourself up from having to make it ever again. And it's really easy to not eat the cookies and to not eat the donuts that are not on the counter in the first place. We want to use our willpower wisely to play offense, to install habits that run on autopilot via algorithms. So an algorithm in its simplest form, if this, then that. If blank, then blank. This is how cars drive themselves. This is like how computers operate. Algorithms is the language of the 21st century. If this, then that. If prompt, then behavior. If I wake up, then I meditate. If my daughter says, "Hey, Dada," then I turn to her and I respond. If my boss, colleague, whatever does this, then I do this. If I hear my alarm go off at 1 o'clock, then I take a 5-minute walk or take a 5-minute meditation break, whatever it is. We want to create these algorithms that like run our lives, and not so that we're boxed in and always doing the same thing all the time, but so that we free up the capacity of our mind to actually make the choices on the things that matter to us, rather than the things that we don't need to make the decision every single day. So no, I said a ton there. I can go deeper into any bit of it, but those are a few of the things that we have thought about and teach in all of our work, and also have baked into the Heroic Social Training platform. So it's all built on these ideas of how do we use our most powerful assets, our minds, in service of helping us to show up as the best version of ourselves more and more consistently. We have all the tools, all the resources that we need. Let's figure out how to leverage that in service of a goal that's really meaningful and really important.
Loving this and very much in agreement with everything that you've shared. I see it in my work and I see it in my trainings. I'm curious if you're open to diving a little bit into some of those algorithms, right? This if then, or maybe if then and not means, right? Because any then, right, there's a meaning that's associated with it. And sometimes when the meaning is related to survival, or what we as little ones who have experienced things equated with survival or not survival, then the game changes a little bit because there's more at stake. Yes? So, for example, if someone, let's say taking the donut or cookie eating example, if someone may have some unconscious program, in which case there's a part of them that believes that if they lose weight, then, or maybe look a certain way or feel a certain way, then, they might not get the attention, and attention equals survival. And so their unconscious mind might make it even more difficult, more challenging to not, open the pantry or whatever and grab the cookie. Yes. Well, the brain can find a way to fulfill that need. It's this kind of not enoughness. It's a version of the not enoughness that you spoke about earlier. So what can we do to help us, right? So that when we see that prompt, that cue, that will actually take that behavior, right? Of course, in addition to the celebration and the dopamine, the kind of wiring. But before we can even get there to wire that in, how do we make that making it more safe for our inner system?
Yeah, I love it. So starting with just a simple model of how the mind works, I think is really helpful. And if we think about the brain over time developed, and it didn't totally shift, it like developed new stuff on top of old stuff. So the very most ancient part of our brain is almost like the reptilian part of our brain. And this brain is only focused on basic needs and survival. Do I have enough food? Can I sleep? Am I safe here? It's purely survival driven, and it's really deeply connected to our nervous system, right? So I know if my daughter is dysregulated, so if her nervous system is out of regulation, I cannot have a rational conversation with her, because the rational part of our mind is the most advanced. And when the lower parts of our mind are in control of our system, they are taking over. That rational part is offline. So we've got the kind of reptilian brain at the base, this basic needs, fear, et cetera. And then above that grew kind of the mammalian system, which is emotionally driven. So this might be, am I psychologically safe here? Do I have, if you think of mammals, they raise their young. You think of like a monkey holding a little monkey, or human holding a little. It's an emotionally driven system. And if there's not emotional safety, then that system's going to grab hold like, hey, I need to feel safe here. I need to feel safe here. And if that system is in control, then again, we don't have access to our higher reasoning, which was the latest part of the brain to develop, is the smartest, most rational, and beyond rational, I would offer. It's not just like this logic driven, but I think there's also like a spiritual component of intuition and all of that comes through, particularly when all parts of our mind are in alignment. We've got our reptile mind that is that basic needs is met. We've got our emotional needs met. We're able to approach life. And it's a fun game to, if that's a new model for you, just think about your behavior over the past X weeks and notice those moments when you felt not myself, right? I was not myself. There was probably one of those underlying needs that wasn't being met. You weren't well rested. You weren't well fueled. The easy example of this is, you ever have to go to the bathroom and it's literally all you can think about and focus on. It's like, where's the next rest stop? Like it takes over. There's this deep need. So we want to bring a higher level of awareness to when we're kind of our rational centers are offline. And we want to begin to do some nervous system regulation. The quickest and easiest way to do that is take a breath. The breath is the power tool, like for peak performance, for emotional regulation, for flow state, for like breathing. Most simplest basic thing. It is always with us. You want to attain enlightenment, just breathe for a long time. Just focus on it for a long time. You want to be a great partner or parent or whatever it is. Next time you're feeling inspired to do something that's not in alignment with the best for yourself, pause and just take a breath. And you can continue doing whatever that thing you want to do, or maybe that breath create a little bit of space for you. And maybe if you're really dysregulated, it takes 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 breaths. And we can't just do this in the moment when we're feeling knocked off center. We have to train this, which is why meditation is one of the practices that we coaches to earn certification literally have to meditate a certain amount of time. We're training our ability to be present, to be able to have some metacognition, to be able to think about our thinking, to notice our thoughts. A lot of folks when they're getting into meditation think if they're having thoughts, they're doing it wrong. No, you're having thoughts because your brain is designed to think. It's going to feed thoughts to you. We just want to develop some awareness of like, oh, there's a thought. Oh, there's a thought. Oh, there's a thought. And have some separation between the thoughts that our mind is giving us, whether they're thoughts of fear or unfear or emotional or psychological or higher level rational thoughts. Like our brain's job is to like put thoughts into our consciousness, to filter information. And so being aware of the thoughts that are coming up and being okay to say, I don't have to believe that thought. It's just a thought. Like, why does that have to be the absolute truth? Let me pause, step back, and reassess that. So meditation allows us to practice that awareness so that in the moment when something's happening and I notice I'm about to do this thing, can I then pause, take a breath, ground my system, ask, have I eaten lately? No, I'm low on blood sugar. Perfect. Let me grab a bite to eat. I'm really tired. I didn't get great sleep last night. Let me make sure I get more sleep today. Look at some of these basic physiological needs and meet them if I'm able to meet them in that moment. Do the same thing on an emotional level, right? Can I connect to my heart, the seat of emotions? Can I feel some gratitude? Gratitude and hope are tied for the number 2 virtue most highly correlated with well-being. It is impossible to be angry and grateful at the same time. So if you are feeling a negative emotion or are responding to someone in a negative way, my partner is this, or my kid shouldn't be doing this, or my colleague is such a bonehead or whatever, pause and just see if you can find something to be grateful for. Man, we'll do this with my daughter all the time. She is so curious. She gets herself into like really interesting situations that maybe I would not have chosen, but I just love how curious she is. And if I can look at the strength that she's displaying in this behavior, you can see this carpet. She had like colored on this carpet once using markers, right? And we were like, and I was like, you know what? Let me pause. Hey, sweetie, like, why would you coloring on the carpet? Like, don't you know you're not supposed to color on the carpet? She's like, yeah, like, were you just really excited to see what it would look like? And you know, whatever. And she had a good, creative, exciting reason, that this motivation that she had, this desire, that conflicted with my desire to have a not clean carpet. But we could have a conversation about, okay, you want this thing and I want this thing. How can we find something in the middle that gives us both what we want? But starting with that gratitude to create a little bit of emotional stability, really just being in tune and giving ourselves permission to pause, take a time out, particularly and I'm, you know, all the asterisks on not a licensed anything as it pertains to trauma, et cetera. Like, please don't, you know, whatever, follow the legal asterisk. Just being aware of how we're responding in different situations. What are the things that are happening, and training that awareness through meditation, training our ability to just notice, wow, I'm in a different state right now. And there's something going on that I'm not necessarily in love with. Let me just try and shift it a little bit. Let me see if I can provide a little bit of safety. Let me see if I can write down this belief that I have about this situation and just be open to it, be curious about it. I mentioned gratitude and hope are the virtue second most highly correlated with well-being. Zest is the number one virtue most highly correlated with well-being. So zest is a fancy word for energy, vitality, life force, enthusiasm. And the number 4 virtue is curiosity. So I'm open to life and new perspectives. I'm shining a flashlight, not a hammer when data comes in. It's like, oh, I'm terrible. Oh, this situation is terrible. It's, oh, let me pause. Let me reset. Let me ground, connect to my breath, connect to my heart potentially, and then follow my intuition about what to do going forward. So that is a kind of tying a little bit of neuroscience in a really simplified model. And then want to speak to identity. So this is another thing that all the habit experts come back to, all the behavior experts come back to, all the peak performance experts come back to over and over again. It's identity, it's self-image. We will only perform to the level of our self-image, and we will only behave out of the identity that we are attached to. We're committed to having a self-concordant narrative about who we are and how we show up in the world. So we have a sense of I am this, I am that, I am that. And when we are behaving in ways that we want to do different from the way that we have been, it's often in conflict with this identity of who we have been up to that point. So a couple fun things we like to share in this context is, one, get clear. What's that identity that you want to have? If your current self-identity is X and it's not serving you well, what's the identity that you would love to lean into? What is that best, most heroic version of yourself? We actually start every single morning in the app by asking folks to recommit to their identity. So we simplify the wide world of things into 3: energy, work, and love. And we invite people to say, okay, who are you at your best in energy? What is your new energy identity? Mine is currently Iron Man Beast. That is like my energy identity. My work identity is strong safety, which I played football in high school, and the strong safety, like played, you can pass cover, you can hit the line. And my fish role, head coach, chief of staff, there's a lot that I'm doing. And strong safety is like this fun, energetic, like, yes, I'm going to hit it. I'm going to hit it. I'm going to hit it. That's my work identity. My love identity is 0/infinity. 0 is a Gandhi nod, reduce yourself to 0 and allow this infinite power to shine through. So when I'm in energy, or when I'm in work, when I'm in love, I can ask, how would a strong safety show up to this moment? How would someone who's reduced themselves to 0 and tapped into an infinite love show up in this moment? So we invite people to recommit to that identity every single day, because we want to keep it fresh. Who am I? Who do I want to be at my best? Then we'll invite you to commit to the virtues that identity embodies, the qualities. I'm present, connected, joyful, kind, genuine, generous, and enthusiastic, encouraging, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then the actual behaviors you're going to do today to live in alignment with that identity. So most of us think that actions follow feelings. Oh, if I feel like doing this today, I'm going to do it. Or if I don't feel like, I'm not going to do it. Um, I would offer that's backwards. So it's actually the actions that drive the feelings, and it's the identity that drives the actions. So we want to be conscious of what's that identity that we have. If we are saying, I want to do this thing and we're not doing it, there's a chance we have an identity that is in conflict with this behavior that we said we wanted to do. And so massaging that, reworking it, and then not paying attention to our feelings are important. I think feelings are very higher level power of wisdom, our emotions that are coming through. We want to pay attention to those feelings. They're great signals, but I don't think we want to pay attention to the like, feel like it, motivation feelings all the time. Like that's one that maybe isn't serving us. So rather than allow that sense of, I feel like it, I don't feel like it, I'm only going to do the things when I feel like doing it, starting with that identity. What would this person do? What would I do if I were behaving from this place? What's the action I'm going to take? And then anyone who has not felt like gone to the gym and gone to the gym anyway, then feels generally great afterwards. Or not felt like writing that report and wrote that report anyway, you start to feel great afterwards. Or not felt like responding to your daughter when she's pinging you with a bid for her attention, and you do it anyway, you feel a sense of connection and warmth. So that feeling follows the behavior, which comes from the identity. And when we're working on installing a new identity, it's almost like we're holding a voting contest in our minds. Like, okay, which one am I? And the way that we vote is by the actions that we take. So if I say I am my love identity is committed father, that's my like, I'm going to be a committed father. And every single time one of my daughters is making a bid for my attention, I ignore it. Guess what? I know that I'm not a committed father. That identity is not actually in alignment with who I am and how I'm showing up. But if I respond, if I act in alignment with that identity, it's like, yep, I'm a committed father. Yep, I'm a committed father. I don't have to win unanimously. I don't have to win all the votes, but that identity should at least win the majority of the votes. And so if we can work on, by the actions that we're taking, by the behaviors that we're doing, voting for this new identity that we want to have, I'm grounded and safe and stable. And, I'm a loving mom, or I'm a world-class CEO, or whatever that identity is in our energy, in our work, in our love. Doing the things that are in alignment with that identity, it's reaffirming, reinstating that identity. So it's this beautiful loop where our identity drives our behaviors. Every behavior then reinforces that identity, and we can spiral up in these beautiful, profound ways. So I know I'm just dropping a ton here, but those are some things I would encourage folks to think about.
Well, what you're dropping is very much important, very, very important, because I agree with you that it is those often unconscious identities, our perception about who we are, which is a collection of many different experiences typically that we've had, or intense experiences, and that then drives, of course, the actions, and then so on. And it's important to do the work that you're inviting people to do every day, to reaffirm, recommit, yes, project that intention out into the field every single day in alignment, because if our identity is not in alignment with the actions, there's going to be some inner conflict. And that could really deplete our energy very quickly and also impact our health. And so, what we know from research, as you know, is that in order to really shift those unconscious, familiar thought patterns, these baselines or mindsets, really deeply ingrained belief systems about who we are, about what's safe and not safe, about the world, right? What's it like to be a good parent, a good leader, a healthy person, or whatnot. We've got to work with the heart. We know that very much, and we've got to really tune in to those virtues, what I imagine you call virtues, because if we only work at the conscious level, then it's going to take a lot of willpower, and that might not stick if we can't sustain that for enough time to really reprogram that. It takes much longer to reprogram when we don't activate the heart, really radiate those elevated emotions, because that's telling all those little parts of us that they are safe. Yeah. And it
Mhm.
really is about safety within. So you speak of the environment, absolutely, that's very relevant in terms of setting ourselves up with those cues to take those behaviors and, be able to celebrate and reward. And it's the inner environment, which is that identity, right? It's almost like an inner vote of, as you said, like listening to all the voices compassionately and cutting through the meanings, like the over significance that we give to things, really coming to that more objective place so that when we see the sneakers, at the foot of our bed or whatever that is, right? So we actually put our feet into it and go work out, and not create those excuses, if you will, which are really what it really means is that in those moments when there's threat and danger, we're not really in conscious choice. So I just love that you get this and that you're helping people to really connect with their true self. Yes, the self with a capital S, not the programs or the voice lines or baselines or those voices in our head, but really the essence of who we are. And to remind yourself of that in those moments that we're kind of at a point of, do we choose the old way or the new way, right? Am I, knowing, for example, I'm a committed parent, right? In that moment when my child needs my attention and other things are needing my attention, I'm much more likely to lean into that. It's safer, to the body. Yes.
Mhm. Yeah.
So
There's the word that comes to mind is integrated, right? Like we are in today's society, it's tough to be fully integrated. We tend to take a little piece and like blow it up and take a little piece and blow it up. And we're separate and I'm a mind, I'm a heart. Like, what does that even mean? We're these like full systems. And the opposite of being integrated is disintegrated, right? Not integrated. And when we're disintegrated, we're literally disintegrating, like just we don't have space here. We're kind of falling apart. And that sense of mind and heart and I love the Western approach is mind in brain, right? That is the kind of standard, but that's not necessarily the approach that everyone takes. And there's great stories about folks going to monasteries and wanting to measure brain waves, and they bring out all the equipment and put on their brain, and the monks are like, why are you doing that? Like, that seems silly. Like, we feel our mind here in our heart space. Aren't you going to measure that? So just being a little bit open to our full being as containing lots of different things. And, when you speak to these choice points and connecting to our heart, many things come to mind, one of which is daimon. So I got a word here tattooed, arete. It's a Greek word, typically translates as virtue or excellence, but it means expressing the best version of yourself moment to moment to moment to moment to moment. If you went back to ancient Greece and asked them what's the meaning of life, they would say eudaimonia. EU, which means good, and daimon, which means soul, good soul. When you are expressing the best version of yourself moment to moment to moment, you are a eudaimon. Positive psychology says the exact same thing. The point of life is to flourish, which doesn't just mean like be happy in a hedonic sense, but this deep, deep sense of aligned living according to your truth, which includes all the conflicts, the challenges, all the good stuff and all the bad stuff, but that deep, deep sense of flourishing. How do you do that? By putting your virtues into action moment to moment to moment. So we start all of our work with this. Can you connect with that highest version within you? Whether you like the Greek word of daimon, whether you like my heart or my soul or my conscious or my conscience or my higher being, or whatever that label is that you give to this part of yourself that lives in your spirit, whatever it is, can you be open to connecting to that? And most importantly, expressing that in how you're showing up in the world, living that, allowing that to come through me. And one of my favorite books, one of, I think, the broader population's favorite books, based on the number of books that have been sold and languages translated, is The Alchemist, right? And the whole story is about this shepherd boy, Santiago, who goes on this adventure to follow his dreams. He talks to his heart. It's about him learning to talk to his heart and speak the language of the world, speak to the soul of the world through the heart. But it's about this relationship between, can I connect with that higher version of me, and can I follow that impulse to act? And if all any of us did was try to spend a little bit more time trying to connect with that higher version. And I was like, well, which voice is the higher version of me? There's so many different voices, and I don't know if it's the right one. Doesn't matter. Just try. Just pay a little bit more attention to what would the highest version of me doing. Start to open up a dialogue with this version of yourself. Don't push away the quote unquote non-highest versions of you, because then that disintegrates internally, right? And then you get into the shadow work and the sick shadow and the evil shadow and the weak shadow, and like integrate all parts of us. Anything that we resist is going to persist, is going to show back up in our life. But just be open. Okay, what might the highest version of me do in this moment? Your body is going to give you great, great, great feedback. If you do something and you get a sense of, that was not good, that person is clearly upset, I don't feel good about that. Perfect, brilliant, amazing, great feedback on what not to do. Like if you do something that you're like, wow, I feel amazing. I'm so proud of how I showed up. I'm so proud of what that, like, that's also great feedback. Do that more and more consistently. Our body is capable of helping us calibrate to that highest version of ourselves, but we do it by noticing an impulse, putting that impulse into action, getting that feedback. Yes, no, course correct, a little bit here, a little bit there, perfect. And over time, with this commitment to show up as the best version of ourselves more and more consistently, as we make choices, hopefully in alignment with that, many of which won't be in alignment with that, but we use all of those choices as a course correcting mechanism to calibrate on, yep, I'm doing it. Oh, falling short. I'm doing it again. That's how we will ultimately flourish. That's how we will ultimately be the best, highest versions of ourselves. So having that willingness to connect internally, and it doesn't have to be in a conscious way. It can literally be a, wow, and this is one of the things that often I was raised Catholic and do a good, and also in the Boy Scouts as an Eagle Scout, and like do a good turn daily. It's like one of my conditioned pieces, like, oh, that old woman looks like she could use some help carrying those groceries. Like she's really seems to be struggling there. And I will get a like offer to help her, just as an, like, that is the right thing to do. Right. Sometimes I do it. Sometimes like I'm really feeling rushed. And then I have a little bit of guilt. Like, oh shoot, I should have helped. Like, but when we get those little impulses of hold the door for that person, right? It is a almost universal sign of good faith and goodwill towards other people. Like hold the door. It is a crazy, easy act to do. Someone smiles at you, give them a smile back, assuming you don't have any alarm bells, fear going off, like whatever it is. Like, do these little things when you get that little impulse, just that micro intuition of this thing, do this thing, do this thing, do this thing. And you learn, yep, that's my highest self speaking to me right now. And you also learn, oh, that's my not highest self speaking to me right now. Perfect. Because when I follow that voice, when I follow those actions, I don't feel great afterwards. There's some part of me that wants to revisit, wants to learn from that. So the whole thing boils down to, can I pay more attention to what feels like the voice of my highest self, my daimon, my conscious, my heart, my soul, like spirit, however you want to define it. And whether it's a religious term or a non-religious term, perfect, doesn't matter. There's something. Put that into action more and more consistently, never perfectly, but making this commitment to at least try, and building a relationship. And the more you try to do that, the easier it becomes. Just like anyone, like we're here. If we're developing a relationship, right? Like I haven't met you before today, but this has gone great. I feel now more connected to you. Like I'm more excited to talk about different kinds of things, right? If the beginning of our conversation went a different way, if you're, not paying attention or a lot, not listening or looking off somewhere else or not smiling, not engaging, I'm going to think, oh, I'm less excited to invest energy here. It's the same thing in the relationship with ourselves. If we're trying to pay attention to our higher selves and we're investing in that relationship, they're going to want to show up too. If we're not, they're going to be like, I'm good here. They don't pay attention to me anyway. So,
And I agree with you 100%. And when that other voice shows up, little protective voice, maybe a little maladaptive, if you will, voice, something that doesn't necessarily feel right or that creates guilt or shame or whatever that is, it is really important to give it some attention as well before kind of shifting and resetting, as you said, to have that curiosity, which I think is so beautiful as one of the kind of key things. And I think that when we come with compassionate curiosity and just take a moment to be present with that voice as well, rather than, of course, shaming it or saying, no, I shouldn't, I should only focus on the higher self, as you suggested, right? To kind of be curious with those parts and say, hey, what am I meant to learn here? Right? What are you afraid might happen here for me, right? But just to be really curious, because when we can give presence and compassion, right, express our higher self towards those little parts, they tend to kind of soften and over time to just kind of go away because they can trust that you'll be safe. And so I think what is really beautiful in our conversation today is that, it is the uh, reconnecting with those virtues, with what we are committed to. Yes, those conscious, deliberate intentions, but really building up the frequency of that by tuning into that through daily practices in the morning, through moment by moment choices, rewards, and so on. And also at the same time, to give compassion and curiosity and patience to some of those old baselines, yes, to some of the kind of maybe old parts that are maybe a little still attached or a lot attached to the old identities that are not quite like, is it really safe for me to not eat the donuts today, right? Like those parts, we want to be present with them as well. And I think that the system that you've created is really beautiful, because it is very integrated. And I think that is a beautiful word that you chose. It is integrated, conscious, unconscious, right? All the parts of us working together, like a family unit, a system that's just coherent and harmonious, and everybody cares about everybody else. Yes, and
Mhm.
so I really wish you the best with what you're creating, and I will be celebrating with you when over 51% of the population is flourishing. I think that is a wonderful intention. I do believe it is doable, with more of the systems and the support and the communities as you are creating for all of us. So thank you.
Oh, I love it. And I'll give an algorithm that's really easy, if then algorithms, right? Um, you mentioned the other voices, right? And validating them, right? That when we say, nope, you're not there, nope, you're wrong, or number one rule of improv is never say no. You always say yes, yes, and yes, and yes, and. Joseph Campbell's got a line. It's like, if I say no to anything in my life, the entire thing unravels. So if we notice that voice, any voice, we get curious. What do you want? What do you want? And how can I help? What do you want? And now it needs to be done. And sometimes it's just, and this works internal relationships, works external relationships. I care about you. I want to know, like, it seems like something's really important to you. Can I help you get that thing? Like, I want to know, what do you want? And just giving that validation, giving that acknowledgement, to all these different facets. And it's so rewarding, to have that, and just to feel like knowledge should be acknowledged. Golden rule, right? Treat others the way you want to be treated. Tal Ben-Shahar has his platinum rule: treat yourself the way you want to treat other people. Let's just follow that, and it'll be really good. But we're fired up. We're really, really excited to ground everything in action. It all ends in action, right? This stuff's fun. This stuff's cool. How do you put it into action? How do you actually do it? It's never going to be easy. It will be challenging, more challenging in some times than others. We'll be more skilled in some things than others. But how do we just commit to actually doing the things that we know are best for us, or in alignment with who we are at our best? And that's our mission, to help bring it into action, help people actually do the things that they know they're capable of doing, they want to be doing, they feel like they could be doing if they were expressing the best version of themselves. Those little choices all day, every day, that actually drive the big things. So we're really excited about that. And yeah, to create that flourishing world together.
That's right. And how can people learn more about how to do that?
So heroic.us is home base for everything, HEROIC.us. We currently have a crazy offering. I say currently because I'm not sure how long it's going to last, but I know that right now it's crazy. So that I mentioned finding Brian's Philosopher's Notes, over a decade ago, and learning all these 600 plus books distilled into 6-page PDFs, 20-minute MP3s. Got over 1,000 3 to 5 minute videos with a single big idea, and 50 one-on-one classes. Productivity 101, Purpose 101, Leadership 101, Conquering Depression, Conquering Cancer, Conquering Digital Addiction, Energy, like you name it, we've got it. A course on a one-on-one course on a master class. It used to be $100 a year, $250 for a lifetime membership. I've spent thousands of dollars on this product for myself, for my clients, for my family and friends. You can now get it completely for free. So it's 100% free, heroic.us. You get access to the Philosopher's Notes, the one-on-ones, the plus ones. You can find the training platform, the social training platform on iOS. The Android release, by the time this comes out, it might be out. It's June 6th, the Android release. So that's coming soon. But you can sign up for the social training platform. It's, I think, $70 a year. So really accessible. And that'll give you access to these tools to help take this stuff and put it into practice in your daily life, day in and day out. Continue to add more. And we've got the coach certification program. So this is a 300-day scientifically proven program. It used to be $1,000, which was crazy cheap relative to other programs out there. And I know because I've paid for and taken other programs out there, we got that feedback. You guys are insane for only charging $1,000. You should charge 10 times this amount, like from the people that were going through the program. Best coaching course I've ever taken, like hands down, etc. We got some really high, consistent feedback from our community. And that is currently offered for $300 and bring a friend for free. So it's even crazier. I thought free Philosopher's Notes and plus ones that might be the best deal ever. Coach at this $300. Again, I genuinely don't know how long that's going to happen. It was part of an acquisition process that we went through. So all that stuff, you can find out more information. Join us for free. Get this life-changing wisdom for free. Put it into practice with the training platform. And if you want to go to Mastery, the coach program is there for you. So that's all at heroic.us. You can also search the App Store for Heroic, black and red branding, beautiful mark that integrates a whole ton of things. But that's how folks can learn more, find us. We would love to help every single person. We're a public benefit corporation. We have a fiduciary responsibility to serving society, partners, investors, customers, employees, and we add a why to the end of this for you. We are deeply committed to profoundly serving you. Can we help you take an idea, use it to change your life, put that idea into practice? Because we think this 51% 2051 goal is going to happen one person at a time, together, starting with you and me and us today. We are the change that we have been waiting for. We each just need to take responsibility for being that change in our own life, supporting those around us. And we want to provide folks with anything and everything that we can to help them do that more and more consistently.
Well, thank you and to your team for doing that. And I wish you much continued growth and success and learning as a fellow seeker. And I wish for this 13,101st day and for the many days to come that you continue to give yourself the opportunity to experience that zest, to be that committed father, all of those intentions, because you inspire the rest of us to do the same. So thank you.